behavior in children, you will find that sugar has negative impacts on children. We are only providing our children sugary options for breakfast. When there is a reduced or free lunch student present, their breakfast is sugar-laden. It is Cheez-Its, Lucky Charms, Cocoa Puffs, all of those types of cereal, a fruit sugared juice, and another kind of animal cracker or something. That's breakfast. Then if you have cereal for lunch, that's another no protein, horrible choice. Then if you stay after school, today after school at our school, they had gummy bears. That's another sugary option. So wow, what are we doing by the time we send our children off? At the end of the night, if they've stayed all day, we've loaded them up with sugar. It's cheap. That's what we're doing well. We're serving them cheaply. We can do better. I've brought in Brigade last year to talk to Mr. Newton. They're in New London. They're serving scratch foods. They're serving muffins that they've baked for their muffin meals. They're serving fresh fruit. Yes, they do get more money from the state and from other funds to pay for their foods. However, they can be used as teachers because their staff was all untrained. Nobody knew how to cook. Now they do. We need to work on providing Chris Urban with what he needs. We have this money that we're allocating to our schools and we're making renovations. We need to consider the kitchens that have been long overlooked. There are some things he's requested in these kitchens to help make them better. And I think that we need to, as parents, come together and form a food coalition in order to better serve our students. So that's a lot, and I'll just go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else like to address the board at this time? Anybody else? No? Okay. Moving on, we've got some minutes. Lots of minutes, yeah. A lot of minutes for them. And that is the minutes from our regularly scheduled January 22nd, 2018. I'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the regularly scheduled minutes of January 22nd, 2018.
But Candace seconds it.
Any correction on
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Jill abstains. So those minutes are approved. The next set are the January 29th public hearing minutes. Anybody like to make a motion on those?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the public hearing minutes of January 29th, 2018.
And Candace seconds it. Any corrections or comments on those? No? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Abstained? Carried. Okay. And next set is a special meeting that we had following the public hearing, which was on January 29th, 2018. So you make the motion on those.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of Monday, January 29th, 2018.
The seconds. Any corrections, adjustments to those? Okay, all those.
Tim,
Yes, George?
question. When Salem has a representative, should that representative be listed?
Yeah. What, as president?
No, because they're not a board.
No, I know, but
Yeah, because all these other.
No, because you're listed under special reports if you're here.
Yeah.
something, because I was present for the February 22nd.
Yeah.
You're here under special board, oh, it says you were not
Present.
the 22nd?
29th.
Oh, 29th. For a public hearing though, so no.
I was looking at the February 22nd one. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, February 22nd is what you're looking at, yeah.
But it still wouldn't be listed because he's not a board member.
He's, yeah.
There's less work at the moment,
It's only
unless
board
he
members.
speaks.
Yeah, right, yeah, we don't, yeah.
Not unless he speaks. You know.
Okay.
That's what we
That's
got.
how we've always done it. Okay, all right.
Always. We're up to
We're,
Up to the committee of the
motion.
whole.
the whole 22nd.
did we vote on the,
No, we did not.
we did not vote on the 29th special meeting, so, any other comments on that? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, saying aye? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Those are adopted. And the last set, is on the committee of the whole meeting that we had on Thursday, February 22nd, 2018. You want to make a motion on those?
Motion to approve the committee of the whole minutes from Thursday, February 22nd.
Okay, and the second? Candace seconds it. Any corrections, comments on those? Nice job on these, by the way.
More is less.
Yeah. Whereas last, yeah, well, I think it captures, it was a nice job. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstains? John abstains. Oh, you're here. I don't,
Be proud of
We're
that.
squeezed in
you're
over here.
really back. So, okay, that's it for the approval of minutes. We're on to special reports. We've got our two high school representatives. Conrad, you want to kick it off?
I'll start off tonight, yeah. So lots of sports news to begin with. Starting with indoor track, the season just finished for them, but very successful. Both the boys and girls indoor track teams won ECCs, and lots of individual runners had success on their own, a lot of them going to states and state opens. In states, actually, Dylan Hadjic came second overall in his event, I believe 100 meters. So second overall in the state, very, very impressive achievement. In basketball, the boys won their semifinal game in the ECC tournament this past weekend against Ledyard in very dramatic fashion. The ECC final against Waterford is coming up this Wednesday at 7:30 at Waterford, so big game. So best of luck to them. In fencing, the ECC tournament was just this past weekend. Matt Bivacqua came in 4th place in men's epee. Ethan Rodig came in 1st in men's foil, and Liz Lewandowski came in 4th in women's foil. And states are coming up this coming weekend. Boys swimming, they are, again, having lots of success this season. They're 10-2 overall and 8-0 in the ECC. And they also have ECCs this coming Saturday. And the spring sports season will start on March 17th. So, yeah.
Yep, I'll take over from now. So, moving away from sports, the first Tri-M Music Honor Society inductions were on February 22nd. The district choir concert was on February 8th, 2018. The 8th grade middle school students from Eastside and Salem will be visiting the high school on March 8th. And the Eastside Pro Club, so the peers reaching out, will be helping giving them tours of the school and answering questions as well. The spring musical Shrek starts on March 8th, runs through March 10th. It's 7 p.m. on Thursday and Friday, so the 8th and the 9th. And it's going to play on the 10th, Saturday, at both 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Looking forward to that. As well, Breakfast with the Bunny, sponsored by the Pro Club as well, is to be held on March 24th at the high school. And lastly, there's also Trivia Night this Friday to benefit the Miracle League, March 2nd, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. I believe it's hosted by Mr. Susi, and prizes we're looking at maybe prom tickets or even maybe a limo to the prom. So big prizes involved. And I've been asked to ask the board if they're willing to put forward a team for the Trivia Night
Ooh,
this Friday. To take on the students.
this Friday night at the high school in the Commons.
9th.
No, that's the adult
That's
version
the
of it.
adult one.
Oh, that's right, okay. I was getting excited for the adult, all right.
Okay.
It's
Have that
2
one on the
weekends of
calendar.
trivia hosted by the Miracle League.
Yeah, right. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'd love to have the board compete against the students this Friday.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
Wow.
I've been out of school a long time.
Yeah. It's this Friday?
Yeah.
We'll have to
Chat and come up
check
with
on that. How many would you want on a team?
Four, I assume, I think, right?
4?
teams of 4.
Four.
Okay.
Is it $5 a head or $10 a head?
$5 a head. And you guys.
Yeah, that's fine.
Budget year, we gotta read it.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can put together a team.
Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
That's great. Great. Drop the challenge.
I know, right? They dropped the gauntlet on us, huh? Wasn't expecting it. Like, I feel you like squeezed that right in there, didn't you?
Good.
That's all from
That's it?
all
That's
from us.
it? Okay. Any questions for our high school representatives? Okay. Let's see, we don't have, oh, no, we do. Well, there he is.
There he is.
Paul Day from the Board of Selectmen. He's just so familiar now, it's just like he's almost a member of the team.
Maybe he'll do trivia night.
Speaking of budgets, it is budget season, as you're all well aware. For those of you who didn't make it to the Board of Selectmen meeting last week, the presentation by the administration and the board was very well received. Specifically, both the board and me personally, want to congratulate you all for addressing additional funding for the social workers that our students and our school systems really need. And I hope that as we go through the budget season, it's not one of the areas that needs to be sacrificed if there are going to be any further cuts. So I would encourage you all to support the Board of Finance, who makes the final decision for both boards. And we're in the middle of it. We've gone through maybe a third of our budget, which put forward as a zero increase budget for the town, which I think is good. And we look forward to going through the process and hopefully getting your budget approved as submitted.
That'd be nice.
Thank you very much, Paul. Good. Any questions for Paul? No?
George.
Excellent. Okay, and now our Salem Board Representative, Mr. Kay.
Okay, I was delighted to listen very carefully to the committee of the whole with respect to grade point averages and have some specific comments that when we get to that area of the agenda that I have discussed, in fact, with our chairman, so these are Salem's positions. I thank you very much for the lively contributions of everyone. It was particularly pleasurable for me personally to be able to hear everyone, as that was the first day I had my new set of hearing aids.
Very good, very good. Good, thank you, George. Okay, that's it for special reports. We do have a consent agenda. Anybody, are we okay with the consent agenda?
No, can I poll, please?
Sure, absolutely.
I would like to pull item C, please, for discussion action.
Okay.
BSC.
B, okay. Yeah, we sure can. We're going to put those under finance,
Yeah,
make it sense, yeah.
yes.
3 for B and 4 for C. Okay. All right, we still have them on the consent agenda, so anyone want to make a motion for the consent
I'll
agenda?
make a motion to approve the consent agenda, item A, since that's what's left on it. No, is
Okay,
it
is there-
item A that's left on it? Yeah, item A is left on
Is
it.
there a second? And Candace seconds it. Okay, then we're ready to vote? We okay? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passed unanimously. And for those at home, that one item, that was a donation of $1,000 from Elise Clements through the Foundation Volunteer Program. It was earmarked for athletics, so thank you. us to our discussion action items. And the first one under instruction is the continuation of the discussion on the work that we did at our committee of the whole meeting on last Thursday on the East Lyme High School grade point average calculation. I'll let Jeff, do you want to?
Yeah, I thought it would be good to start by kind of recapping. I think the minutes of that meeting for February 22nd really did a nice job of kind of outlining some of the key discussion points. So for those, our community members as well as those at home who can't see those minutes, that don't have them in front of them. This meeting started off with the team, high school team, bringing some of their staff members from the county department. And they reviewed some background information regarding the history of the current grade point average calculation system, how it came to fruition, which began with the class of 2015. And at that time, the decision not to record class rank and to record a weighted and an unweighted GPA at the time. Also discussed was a review of the college and scholarship application process and an explanation of the high school profile, which is currently in place. And a fairly robust discussion on the profile was done. Additional information was provided regarding GPA calculations for DIRD, our district reference group. So all the schools, districts, I should say, that are similar to East Lyme in statute. There's a review of those, as well as some of U.S. News' top 15 schools in Massachusetts, and Northeastern's admission statistics, and an 8-year historical chart of accepted and attended college by high school students. Also included, looked at was the petition that was submitted by parents, Goodwin, and signed by EM parents that had come forth. Mr. Baumann had presented some additional research during this meeting, showing some of his thoughts in relation to the weighted system in comparison to the top 15 high schools in Connecticut. And most board members looked at that as very, some compelling information on the weighting. And then we went into, some of the discussion items, so I'm not going to review all of those. I want to say that I think it was a robust discussion, a lot of information on both sides of, whether it would be feasible to, look to trying to readjust our current weighting or leave it the same. In my opinion, it opened up the door for, I think, some future discussion on the trend that might be coming into play with how colleges are looking at GPA and accepting students. With the College App, as we know, students can apply. I mean, you can apply to multiple schools now, and colleges might be considering looking at how they make that cut of, you're looking at thousands of kids. The GPA might be some looking at. So we do know that they look at, most have a holistic approach, and it's done differently at every, at every college and every level. We also found that every high school in our district really does it different in the. So, we're not the only one that has a doing it. They're all, it actually varies across the board. I also think in coming out of that committee of the whole meeting that I think we really need to take a look at, and this is something that in the near future we'd like this administration and central office like to sit down with our high school counseling department. They are taxed with a number of different items in the course of the day and responsibilities, many of which involve dealing with crisis for students, counseling itself, running and being part of 504 meetings, being part of PPT meetings, take up a lot of time. So I think it's important that we look at their time allocation across the school that the 6 of them are involved in. And do they have enough time to do a very thorough job of monitoring the college application process, as well as the career process for students that aren't going on to college. So that's kind of my analysis of where we are. And again, the trend could be formulating how colleges look at acceptance of students to their schools, and it's not something that we are in a position, in my opinion, right now to change, but to continue to monitor as we move forward. So I'll open it up to all of you for any, further discussion, but that's what I got out of that meeting on the 22nd, and I'll continue look-see.
Any comments or any points that people want to make? George's got his hand up. Okay.
I discussed this with our chair. He was familiar with Eric's comments and proposals, which he also found compelling, though he and I are concerned about the implementation timeline, such that stress is not placed on either your administration or on the students, that suddenly they feel the game has changed on them suddenly, that they and their parents have not been able to adequately plan for. From Salem's perspective, we think this is a good change that needs to be made, but the timeline for implementation should be carefully evaluated, and particularly with a view to minimizing the stress on students and parents.
Good. Other points, comments? Yeah. One thing I was going to say was that I was extremely impressed with the level of preparation that Lisa, I can't say did and was prepared to help with the discussion, as well as the work that our board member Eric Ballman also had put into the assessment, as well as all the materials that were brought forward, which were extremely easy to understand and to follow. And I came away, with points of saying, wow, there's probably there are other components to this that probably need to be looked at as well. If at some point when a change occurs, we should comprehensively, it should be looked at in terms of how the whole school profile. And I think there was some conversation that we had about, maybe like some schools don't even report weight. They don't report weighted GPAs, which I thought was quite interesting. And then colleges can then go and calculate however they choose to calculate. If they want to use a weighted GPA, then the data is all there. But that's a change. That's a substantial change. So, as George was saying, I think that those things have to be looked at in its entirety. There were other things too that popped in my head too, and that was we don't have a community service requirement for graduation, which I'm always scratching my head that that's a piece.
We used to?
Yeah, I thought we used to.
Waterford does.
I
don't know what happened.
Waterford does.
I don't know. So, but I mean, I'm just thinking that's something where, with how colleges look at applications, that having that certainly brings in another dimension of leadership and engagement and community and all sorts of things. So yeah. So that was an interesting point as well. Also, the reporting of the what was it? The highest GPA weighted number for each class. I kind of was wondering about the validity of that. Well, I don't have an opinion, but I thought the discussion and the focus on this topic just kind of, in my mind, raised a fair amount of not question. But I'm just saying that as you look at not only what our guidance counselors are doing and the direction of that, the school profile is something that probably should be looked at as well. Candace?
Okay, so for timeline, and for those that are thinking, okay, now what?
Yeah.
Okay, so is it fair to say that it's because it's coming up for a review at a natural pace for next year? Is that correct, Mr. Susi?
2 years.
2 years. 2 years. Okay. So is it fair to say to create an ad hoc or something that's going to work along with the high school? That way the conversation doesn't go away, it's a working conversation? I'm just throwing it out, I don't know.
Go ahead, Eric, then I'll...
I had a longer kind of, so I don't know when
let me just kind of respond to this. I really want to look with the high school at the time allocation for the work that they're currently doing. I think that's an important piece. I think they're very taxed in that department, and Mr. Sousa, you'd probably agree with what's going on there. They have a lot on their plate, and it's only growing. So I really want to look at that. Are we doing, I don't want to call it a disservice, but are we able to provide enough support in the college and career readiness component in planning with, the staff that we have and their time to do the job, right? So I'd like to start there and look at that.
And who else would like to add? Eric does, okay. Go. I was just looking to make sure Lee, John, anybody? Okay. Go ahead, Eric.
So I was the person who kind of kicked this off, and, I do want to first thank, a lot of people got involved. I know, a lot of people in the high school pulled a lot of information together, a lot of people, parents, and coming in some parents here, who appreciate, all the support and all the work that was done. And I will say the data that the high school pulled together was pretty, great data to have, and it's data that I think I'd like to continue to track a lot of that data, what schools students got into. We just want to make sure that our trending is good, to understand, what goes on at different colleges in the application process and all that. But it really led to, I think we did have a good discussion last week. I think the data was appreciated, and it was a lot of time to pull together. What I took away from it was actually the exercise was about grade point average, which I still have a strong view on, but that's fine. But it actually opened up a number of other items that I think Jeff touched upon, and I'll kind of reiterate, is the importance of our school profile. I bet most people don't even know what the school profile is, probably have never seen the school profile. For those who are applying to schools, some of them may start to see it. Have you seen it, Conrad? You may not have seen it, right? Okay, that's the difference, right? Junior versus senior applying and seeing it. So this school profile is a really, really important document because it tells a lot about how the school manages its grades, what AP classes it has, what honors classes, everything kind of about the school. And I really think we should try to get that document to make sure that more students have access to that. So I think that it's a great, it's actually a very good document. It's very clean. I think we can make some refinements to it, but it's refinements. I think overall it's pretty good. But that's something, so what I want to think about is what can we do in the near term and what can we do in the longer term? In the near term, I think the school profile is one that I think it's very good. I think we can make it excellent. And I think there's a few things that I hope we can get a group together, look at it, and make some changes that can impact the next class. There's no reason, I think these are things that aren't major changes to everybody, every student. It's just telling about your school and how do you put your best foot forward about the school. So I'd like to look at the school profile, and I think we could do something at that. I don't know if it's AAA. I don't know if it's some other group, but I think we can do that, and I think we can do that shortly. Jeff mentioned about counselor time, and I think that's a real important way. I think there's some things that we can look at to see how do our guidance counselors who are burdened with, there's a whole bunch of things that their pie is pretty full. How do we make sure that they have time to help our students with the whole college process? And it starts, some people might say start freshman year. Freshmen are just still trying to figure out how do I get through the hallways and things like that, right? So it's probably sophomore year, because that's where you really start having the impact. By junior year, it may be too late. Obviously, there's things you need to help them with junior year, but to help students understand, you not only need to do community service, schools are looking for you to have leadership positions in that community service. So don't just say, well, I volunteered at the 5K run and I did this and I did that. It's, no, I'm the treasurer of the Rotary and I'm president of this club and I'm do that. That's what schools want to see, is that leadership role that you've really put time in. So I think counselors giving some advice on that and guiding the students and making sure their students understand that. I think that we can do in the shorter term and help our current sophomores and juniors and, freshmen for next year will be sophomores. So I think those are things we could do in the near term. The other big learning that Lisa brought up, and Lisa was fantastic the other day, she called a whole bunch of schools. She had a lot of conversations with admissions officers at a bunch of schools, which was, what she said is, and I won't quote it exactly, but what I remember is, it was really great to spend time to talk to them, and it helped get East Lyme High School's name back in, or I won't say back in, because I don't know what I was missing, but in the thoughts of those schools.
It brought it to the front.
Brought it to the front, thank you, of those schools. So I think we need to look and see how can we get our counselors to have time, again, it goes back to time, to having some of these discussions with admissions officers at schools. And it might only be 3 to 5 a year, but if you have 6 counselors, and each do 3 to 5, you're hitting 20 to 30 schools. And you don't have to hit them each year, so you kind of rotate through. And you might get over a 4-year span, you're getting to 60, 80 schools, and you're really, them getting to know more about you, and you getting to understand their process. And the reason that's so important is the process is changing significantly. The number of college applications is going up significantly. We talk, I keep bringing up Northeastern, went from 33 to over 50,000. Harvard, my understanding is had 43,000 applications this year. Say 1,600 end up enrolling. Think of those numbers. How many of those 43,000 do you think have GPAs that are probably like 4.0s and have like 1,500 or plus on their SATs? Probably like 40,000 of those, right? I mean, so then it's what else are you doing? And let's make sure our students all understand that's fantastic that you've done that. But if your lifelong dream is to go to Harvard or Princeton or Yale or Duke or Stanford or whatever the school is, that we're telling those students in their freshman year, in their sophomore year, not only do you have to do well in school, it's really important that you do these other things. And so that was, I think, a learning for us and what we can do to help our students be more prepared as they start filling out the applications and that they make a positive application. The other thing that's changing in the application process is the holistic process. So every college likes to say we have this holistic process, and that word is like the buzzword, and that means we look at the whole student. We're looking at their grades and transcripts and their essays and all this other stuff. So we're holistic and we look at the student. Well, the article in the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago had schools like the University of Pennsylvania who have somewhat scrapped the holistic process, and they're dividing up students and saying, this admissions officer, you look at the GPAs and test scores. This one, you read the essays, and this other one, you look at extracurriculars or leadership or other things. So they've divided this up. So now it's not one person looking at a student and making a holistic decision. It's now saying you got 3 or 4 people looking at an application and dividing it up. So what we want to make sure is when that does get divided up, that we're strong in each of those elements and that our students understand we need to be strong in each of those elements. So I think that some of the things that we're talking about could really make a difference. The school profile, the counselor time. And the third thing, which is probably, I don't know if we can do it or not, but it would be really, I think, really helpful to get admission counselors, admission officers to come to ELA to our high school and give a talk. So how great would it be if Yale, so we have some students who really want to go to top schools. What if the Yale, it's right up the road, it's 45 minutes, they came and gave a talk to parents and students of all, and we could open it up broader than East Lyme schools because that may attract Yale more than just having East Lyme people there because they want to fill the room. But that would be really good to have and talk to our sophomores. Make sure the sophomores who really are at the top of our class, that they're going to that to listen to the admission officer. Conn College, another good school, having them, the Coast Guard, right? These are all, right around and you could get Mitchell, you can get a couple others, but have some nights, and that will, either nights or, you could do it at lunch, you could do it right after school, I don't know, with parents, I haven't thought about it logistically, but it would be really helpful to hear it from the horse's mouth. It's one thing, as I know with my kids, when I tell them and say, this is what you need to do, yeah, Mom and Dad, I don't think you really know. When they heard the admission officer say, hey, we need to do that, I'm like, I've been telling you that for 10 years. So it just has so much more impact on the students to hear it from the people who are making the decisions. It just is so much more powerful. So those are the things that I think we can do in the short term. In the longer term, I was hoping to hit grade weighting in the shorter term. I don't know if it's one of those things for me is, will it have an impact? I don't know if it will, but I also don't know that it doesn't. And I'm still probably there. But I think these other things, if we can do these other things in the shorter term, then we can look at grade weighting in a couple of years or in the normal cycle and manage that. But I think there are things that we can start impacting our students immediately. So I don't know how to take that next step forward if it's a AAA, but I want this on our agenda, and I want it to come up again, because I think there's things that we as a Board of Ed can have an impact.
I think it would be great to put a profile on the AAA.
AAA? Yeah, I think this would be a good item to have, to carry it on the AAA agenda, and then we'll also mark it down as an item for a future agenda topic. And maybe Jeff and I will talk about putting a projected check-in point as to when the board would hear follow on this. But I think all those comments are appropriate. Anybody else have anything else? Bill?
I wanted to say that, similar to what Jeff was commenting on, it sounded like that our guidance department is overwhelmed right now, and I think that the positions we put in for a social worker and all that, but it sounds like with the world as it is, they're balancing dealing with kids' emotional needs and stresses and having the time to deal with the preparation for college. They're just running out of time, and I was impressed with all of the effort that went into preparing for that meeting that we had and the phone calls that were made. And it looked like that was a learning experience as well for guidance, which is, and not that they had time, but it was to do it, but I think it was kind of eye-opening in that they're stressed and they want to be able to provide for the kids what they need, but they're getting bombarded with these other needs as well, the dealing with the, mental health in some ways of the students. I don't remember the details of it, but for some years in our school district, one of the English teachers, she was pretty much an in-house, help the seniors get ready through the application process. It was part of her job. I mean, writing all the English essays, and I don't know how that plays out in our school district, but that it changed over time. But I know for several years, Jen Burke was the go-to person to help every kid get on the right path and make sure that they were applying and putting their best foot forward, because guidance needed some help. And so they kind of expanded, and she was kind of 1 foot in guidance and 1 foot in the English department. So I don't know whether we need more resources there, or...
Don't they do that in the English class? You all, I mean, don't they work with you on your speeches, on your college essays in the English classes?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
That's what I thought.
On your Common App essay.
Correct.
But most applications
Require supplemental.
require a
Yeah.
lot of supplementals, so there's a lot.
Oh, I know there's more than one essay, but I mean, that's one resource that I
Yep,
knew
there's
that
definitely someone.
they did.
Okay, any other?
Conrad has a,
Anything you want to say?
I mean, go ahead, Conrad.
No, go ahead. It's
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
No, that's fine. It's fine.
No, what Bill just shared resonates a lot. I think similar to what you're talking about in your district. In the district that I work for, we actually have an entire mandatory course from when students are in 9th grade to 12th grade that's entirely college readiness. And it's truly geared towards getting students what they need every step of the way, panels with admissions counselors, counselors, understanding the financial aid process, and really solidifying those things when students are freshmen and sophomores, so that when it comes to their junior and senior year, they're able to really focus on the more tactical items of applying to college. And so I think there's a lot of merit in thinking about areas in which we could infuse that into what we do here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I definitely agree, just as a student and going through this experience of, working with my counselor, Ms. Case, and applying, and, the incredible amount of work that she's put in helping with my recommendation letter and all this sort of thing, and the guidance in the process. And we just recently, I had a meeting with her, and the topic came up of just this process, specifically from kind of the end of summer, going into senior year, through kind of the end of the application process in January. And towards the beginning of the year, in the first couple of weeks, seniors receive kind of a packet, and there's a presentation in English classes from the guidance department talking about kind of what concretely your steps are in applying for colleges, when you need to, ask teachers for recommendation letters and this sort of thing. And so we were discussing that a little bit, and my experience with that, and where we thought there could be changes made to that. And one of the things that I'd mentioned was not necessarily germane necessarily to senior year explicitly, but going back in earlier years and having meetings with counselors just to kind of see where you are, and specifically what kinds of activities you're being involved in, as Mr. Bauman was saying. And Ms. Case was saying, we'd love to do that. That's great. We just don't have the time. And so I think that is really, that seems, at least in my experience, to be the kind of the limiting factor. And the guidance staff, they're incredible. I don't know how they do all that they do already. And I think that there's really a sense that they'd love to do more, but that the responsibilities that they have, this kind of having the crossroads of, balancing this kind of emotional, psychological type things, and the college process as well. I think it seems like, I don't want to speak for them, but, it seems like that if there were a way to get them more time, I think that would be helpful to the students in this process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very well said. Well said. Barbara.
Yeah, just something to piggyback on what Eric was saying about admissions counselors. I also remember that Lisa made the comment that some of the admissions counselors didn't return the call.
Right.
And were a little irritated that they were being bothered. So
That's interesting.
I think it's a good idea, but we might also want to think about that I'm sure in East Lyme, we have alumni from a lot of the colleges and universities we're talking about. And often alumni get the job through admissions offices of their colleges and universities to go to their local high schools and talk about why their schools are so great, but also could talk about the admission process. I know I went to one of the colleges on the list that we were talking about, and I get stuff from them all the time about wanting me to contact high school students. So I would think that maybe one of the things the guidance department could do is get a list of alumni that live in town who might be willing in East Lyme and in Salem to contact their colleges and universities and find out whether or not they could be a representative, and we could get those people together, which might be a help to that whole admissions counselor point of view. I also think an alumni can speak to kids about what the college experience is like, which is also an added bonus.
I like
So,
It's a great idea.
And, just to add to that, I think what also might be helpful is possibly contacting students who are currently going to these schools.
right, exactly.
Because I think, I've had a lot of discussions with my friends who are at college now, and just kind of their experience of being there currently, what that setting is like.
Yep.
That's a really good
We're signing you up now.
I'm willing to, for sure.
Okay, so we'll definitely carry this with AAA. We'll carry it on our agenda watch as well. I will talk about the time frame for board continue to take an engagement on this topic. Okay. Everybody all set? All right. Moving on. The next one is the review of the 2017-18 school calendar to include elementary half-day and the school potential of the last. Happy topic.
Yeah, kind of shifting gears here. First, let me throw out a big thank you to the teachers, specifically at the elementary level. They are already heavily engaged in trying to clean out, their classrooms and identifying. I mean, it's a huge undertaking to identify what they're going to need for the start of next year when most everything's going to get moved out of their classroom over the course of the summer. So let me preface and thank them because they have really been working hard at that already. To tie in with that is looking for some time, and rather than disrupting classrooms and disrupting student learning and putting substitutes in place to help give teachers additional time to pack, because they all have to pack their classrooms. We were working with the union and our staff on presenting half days at the end, this for elementary only, half days the last 5 days of the school year in June. So rather than the last day itself is always a half day, but the 4 previous to that. So kids would go home, staff would stay, and have that time to pack up their room and get everything ready to go, because when they, the last day hits, everybody's gone and things get moved immediately and construction starts. So I wanted to propose that as what I think is a great idea. It's least disruptive to student learning and students, not having same cost by not having substitutes come into play. And also, I'll throw in the last day of school with our 5 snow days and 1 rain day. We are on Monday right now for the last day of school, Monday the 25th of June, graduation. We would like to, a request from the board, to get back 1 now and put us back to that Friday. It still gives us, potentially 1, because remember we have 182 days and we're only required by law to have 180. So that would put us back for graduation on Friday, the 22nd. So I know, Jimmy, you love those 2 days, why we do the 2 extra days, but here we are. And we've had snow days the last couple of years, and this was kind of a good one. Unfortunately, probably not done yet, but hopefully, knock on wood, it is, but that's where we're at. So I wanted to propose both of those. So, yeah, questions?
Yeah, so I think it's all great. I'm happy. I like graduation on Thursday or Friday, not on a Monday, so I'm fully supportive. My question on the half days is logistics. So it's finals for the high school. So for busing.
Well, the high school would stay the same, middle school would stay this would just be for elementary.
So busing, so that
with
high
busing
school is done at noon, so then you have buses going home. I'm just, and then you got middle school. I just wanted, if someone could check the logistics.
Yeah, the timing of exams.
Working, that you can actually get the high school home, pick up the elementary, and then go to the middle school run.
We can double check.
I think that's how it would have to, you'd have to do high school, elementary, and then middle school.
Yeah.
In a pretty tight window.
Yep.
So if that can be done, I'm supportive of it, but
Okay.
it might be, it seems like it might be tricky.
Other comments? Al?
Not a big fan of moving the days.
Okay. What was it?
I'm not a big fan of dropping.
Okay.
We have worked so hard all these years to get that extended out to 182. Basically, just drop back. We never used the days. During contract negotiations, we really worked hard to get those extra contract days added in, and now we're just giving them up. Not happy.
Jamie, did you raise your hand?
My feeling,
Yeah.
182 days.
Yeah, I don't know. We had 2 wind days.
Yeah.
2 wind days.
2
4
power
We didn't need those in
days
October.
and 1 rain day.
One rain, which we thought might be ice, but It went the other way.
It rained.
It rained.
No, yeah, I hear Alan and Jamie, but I also hear, stuff.
I ask a question.
Yeah, sure.
For those parents who work, are we still going to have after-school care available for them?
We've talked about that. We actually have reached out to our before after-school care coordinator, and she's looking at how, capacity-wise, how much she could
Because that's
take.
going to be a major issue of whether or not I'm okay with this.
Yeah. And a lot of districts do this. At the end, they have, the last 4 or 5 days are scheduled half days. It's just how their calendars operate. Now, I'm not trying to sell it, in that sense, but it does work. It's hot sometimes. It's humid. Getting kids out in the afternoon young kids isn't a bad thing either when you have 3 buildings that are, not air conditioned, as the high school and middle school is. But what do you think?
Typical practice would be maintained for aftercare in the sense that the 4 days would have, those who participate in aftercare would have aftercare.
They would still be intact?
Yes, yeah, except on the last day, we never do.
We never have that
Yep,
on the
but
last day,
those
but
who are
days.
currently enrolled would, yes.
They can stay
It
after.
would be a capacity issue, obviously, if we opened it up to anyone not enrolled, and then we probably would have enough staff in order to cover it potentially, depending on the demand. But, no, I talked to Andrew Scott, and she said, those who are in the program, we have capacity to.
It would be the ones who don't normally stay because they take the bus home at the end of the day.
Right.
So those odd ones out that probably stay on the extra time on the half days.
Right.
Might be an issue.
Right.
Okay.
All right. You're going to bring this back at some point, right?
We'll bring it back. Well, we'll bring back the graduation day.
Yeah.
That gets set in April.
But we're going to need to talk about
But we could look at the busing piece, and we'll still have time. If we bring it back in the next meeting, if all is clear, then I would propose and request that we move forward with that, so we can let parents know well ahead of time of this change of practice at the elementary level. So we'll check the exam schedule and the busing to make sure. Barbara Scott.
Barbara?
Jeff, so the teachers are in favor of this, the elementary teachers. They want this, so that they can have the second half of the day?
Exactly,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, we've worked with the union, and, yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
This is something they would like.
This is something they would like.
Yeah.
And it keeps them teaching
Yeah, no,
in
I
the
get it.
classroom.
Yeah.
Get it.
Yeah, they're going to go through, this could be pretty stressful.
They've got a lot, especially the
And then-
teachers who have been here 20-plus years. They've got a lot of
Absolutely, they
stuff.
have a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
they come back, yeah.
Oh, and they've already started on their own accord, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we'll bring that back into the next, we'll check that one piece back to the next meeting. Okay.
Very good. So on to finance, facilities, and community. First item is discussion, update on the elementary alterations project. Jeff, do you have anything going?
No, I mean, the phasing component is really the work of what's been going on. We're just about finalized, I'd say, with the phasing piece. Especially Flanders has been, the most, I guess, has been the most challenging, especially with the use of central office. And tomorrow morning, actually, central office team meeting, we've added one more classroom at central office. We have 6 classrooms. Marianne has decided she's going to vacate her office. That's going to become the 6th classroom over there to help offset having to construct classrooms in Flanders Gym to the tune of over $100,000 as temporary classrooms.
Nice.
So thank you for saving us $100,000. Appreciate that. So that's been the biggest amount of work right now as it pertains to school projects. As I mentioned, we got our letters, our approval from the state back. We are out going out. Bid dockets get opened up on the 13th. Yep. It's tentatively the 13th of March. We're securing the location for that. It'll either be the high school auditorium or the middle school cafeteria. We need a large space, so we're just finding which is going to be available.
That'll be the bid documents for Niantic and for Lily Haynes.
Yes,
And
thank
then
you.
Flanders is lagging behind by about 3 weeks or so?
Three
About
weeks.
And the reason for that is just the logistics of doing all the bidding and everything. The O&G strongly recommended that things be pulled apart a little bit. So, yeah, so that'll be, and so that's a big, the bids coming in, this is a big deal, because this is when we'll see where our budget and everything. And we're hoping there was a really good turnout at the, I attended the pre-bid meeting at Lily Haynes, and there was, I don't know, probably about 35 contractors there. Good, it was, they said it was a very strong turnout, and there was, when Laurel, O&G project manager at this point, asked all the contractors, said, is there any problems with this projected timeline and also opening of the bids on the 13th of March? Everybody said, no, that's great, which means not a lot of work out.
I was just going to say, people are looking for work.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get some good bidding. That's good, yeah, so yeah.
One major item that we're continuing to kind of look at and have more discussion about is in relation to our wireless connectivity. And when they start, phasing, building, we can't have interruptions in, wireless service. Our classroom teachers use that so frequently in their classrooms with their instructional teaching and all the work that goes on. So we have to make sure that's not disrupted. And also removing things like smart boards, things, large things are attached to the wall. Whose responsibility, is that going to be? Some of it is going to be on, the construction company, especially if they have to take a wall, change a wall or move a wall or take it down, as some are being reconstructed in Flanders. But if not, if we have to move it out, it's on us. So that's our dime, our time. We're trying to work through some of those bigger ticket items. So that's all the process. So we're excited, though. We're excited. Next year is going to be a good year. So,
okay. And everybody okay with that? Then we'll move on to an update on the elementary redistricting process that we've got going.
And then for 1920, we look at redistricting. This afternoon, we had an opportunity to meet with Mike Zuba from Malone and Room. Mike talked with us about, just some preliminary thoughts, and some potential redistricting, proposals. He's putting those together. He's going to bring those, to our next Board of Education meeting. We'll get those to you prior to that meeting for your review. But I think Mike has done a robust job. I think we've been very impressed with the work that's gone into that. I'm looking forward to all of us being able to review those proposals in detail, and then working to decide which one's going to be best suited, for our district for redistricting in 1920. And also, I think at that time, we need to start talking about the time as to when we want to see this all unfold with, our parents, and get that solidified. We've got construction going on next year, so I think we're going to have some conversations about that as well. So that will start and happen. Okay, so we'll be ready for that.
That'll be an exciting meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, next item is item number 3, right? Which is from the consent agenda, and that's a proposed donation of colored glass to the Eastline Middle School from Marcia Vasiloff. Abrahamson from the Vasiloff company. And the colored glass donation is valued at $4,000. I think this has occurred
Every year.
Okay, so this was
Yeah, so I didn't know it happened every year, but 250 pounds of, I was worried that we have a place that we know we can put, that sounds like a lot. So I just, we thought it through. So if we thought it through and we've had it in the past, I guess we thought it through. I just want to make sure we can actually get 250 pounds and do something with it, and it's not in a place that's going to,
Yeah. Mr. Bick, do you have a location? Is that stored in the art room?
Sure, it's stored in the art room. It's in a big barrel. It's been in the same spot for quite some time. And when I first saw that, it seemed expensive to me, but if you actually look at stained glass, it's quite expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see all the mosaics that they do, and that's really the purpose behind the glass in our building.
Oh, yeah, it's great. daughter's going to, so it's great. I didn't know that we
yeah.
get this all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's great. It's great that they're doing it.
Okay. Any other?
Thank you, Mr.
Eric, would you like to make a motion?
I guess so. No cheat sheet, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed donation to Elms by Marcia Vasiloff Abramson of Vasiloff Stains in the amount of $4,800.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, second. Jamie, I also heard Jamie, seconds. Any further discussion on that one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Unanimously. And the next item, which came from the consent agenda, which is the proposed donation to the Eastline Middle School from Dr. Barry Sheckley in the amount of $5,000. And this could be to support technology equipment upgrades at the Eastline Middle School. And, Jamie, you went.
I pulled. I pulled it.
Yep.
For a couple reasons. One, in policy, we had had this long discussion about donations being made to specific teachers and those items becoming school property, not teacher property. And then a couple of years ago, we had a proposed donation come to us for $5,000 for students to go on a field trip to Whitegate Farm. And the board had some issue with it because it was just to one school. My issue with this donation, I mean, I'm all in favor of donations, but my issue with this donation is that it is to only be used by the Mariners Kiva by a specific teacher, and not a school-wide donation of laptop computers. That's my only issue with this. But normally, I'm all in favor of any donations that come to us, but those are my two issues with this.
And I don't know if it was in the wording, Jamie, but I know Mr. Sheckley, Dr. Sheckley and Mrs. Kubalanka have been working together on, the program that they're doing is involving threads and monitoring student threads through Infinite Campus. So it's specific to the use by students in Kiva. Maybe it's the way you worded that. They have to have the tools in order to, you know. But I hear what you're saying.
It's being only
Yeah,
given
specific to.
certain students in a certain Kiva with a certain teacher.
Yeah.
That's my only issue with that donation. Because trust me, I'm all in favor of any donation that comes in. But we've had extensive conversations about equity and everything else, and that's not equitable.
One question, please. Is it just something that Ms. Kubalanka teaches? Is it taught throughout the whole middle school?
No, it's
Or
just
he volunteers to do this?
Yeah, he volunteers. Mr. Bickett, how often does he come in? Is it once a?
He comes in probably every 3 or 4 weeks. He's been involved with the middle probably for the last 5 or 6 years, working on that asynchronous conversation. It's an ability for kids to kind of create a thread, as you said.
So just Ms. Kubalanka's class is exposed to that?
Yeah,
I'm just trying to.
Ideally, I think where we would like to see that go is now that we've sort of mastered that asynchronous conversation, so they would have the capacity to collaborate with the elementary schools, with other Kivas within the building, with other grade levels. I mean, that's where we would like to push it out to. I know Mr. Newton had a chance to do it last week.
Yeah, it was great.
So it's something now that the other Kivas could use.
Absolutely.
So that it's really, we could take it upon ourselves to make sure, or whoever wants to take upon themselves to make sure that it goes through each Kiva. Take those and maybe have those computers just dedicated to that particular component of the education. I don't think we should turn it down.
No, I'm not saying
No, I
turn
know
it
you-
down.
No, you're just, you're bringing it out because.
Those two issues with
Yep.
the donation.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
just cycle it through all
Based on our
Kivas if we
past
can.
voting cycle and our past discussion
I
cycle.
agree, but
This is my issue.
cycle it through all Kivas. So it's not just appearing like it's just for Ms. Kubalanka and the Mariners.
Okay, we'd like to potentially expand, upon it, as Mr. Bickett had, had mentioned. So I would love to see it used, more beyond. It's just Mrs. Kuvalak has been working with Dr. Sheklia, as Mr. Pickard said, for, a couple of years now.
How does it fit into how does this project fit into the instructional program?
So one of the things Mrs. Kuvalanka has brought to, she's on the Social Studies-Based Content Committee.
Okay.
So she's now brought about the way she's been instructing into it and has brought it to the middle school content-based PLC and had conversations with her colleagues about where does that fit into unit development for 5, 6, and 7, 8. So I think that inquiry-based model that she's inquiring with the common threads is something that she's now talking to across her colleagues, as well as at the district level about integrating those things into our curriculum.
Okay.
So
we see this as something we could do district-wide.
Oh, without a doubt.
In terms of social studies.
Oh, without a doubt.
Is it mostly for social studies, or
No.
can you use it anywhere?
No, you can use it across various different content areas. No, sorry?
No, social,
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a way for students to discuss the same top threads of the same topic.
Right.
Over time.
Right. And then you can catalog it. It's basically like making a brain map. You post a content, you post a question, and then the kid responds, and then another kid can respond to it. And it's like a brain map of their journey throughout the course of a unit. Rather than sort of having one conversation that lives in one period, you can actually have it go all the way weeks out. And
so it's
kids
like
can see how their
That's what
thought
they've been doing.
process
Yeah.
has changed
So it's like
from
a
week
big
1 of something
brainstorming.
to week 6. Yes. But it's also a way for students to have voice and autonomy within the classroom, which is part of our long-range plan.
Yeah.
It's a really nice tie-in for her to see her model potentially move into other classrooms.
So there is, okay.
I mean, we will, the benefit is that Dr. Sheckley, in doing this, is really running research studies. So we're also at the same time benefiting from being part of his research background about student agency. And so we'll be able to have the research behind the impact of those on our students, which
Running research studies on our kids?
No. So Dr. Sheckley he's associated through UConn, has done several research studies and that research is done. And now within and supporting and volunteering his time, he wants to obviously see some of those practices come to life. So that's part of it. So it's nice to have a research-based practice moving forward for our students rather than just, oh, that looks cool.
Let's give it.
Well, I have the research that backs that type of stuff.
So he's in the education department at UConn?
He was.
Was. Oh, he's retired? Okay, got it.
And lives in town here and just looking
I think
to
it's
support
excellent.
our middle school.
It's a great resource we don't have to pay.
At the
I don't
same
mean to put it that way, but you know what I'm saying.
But at the same time, though, I think Mr. Bitgood and I both have met with Dr. Sheckley as well, and we made it pretty clear within the laptop cart and that it cannot be only utilized by one teacher. That as Mr. Bitgood's trying to build capacity of technology in the middle school, he is sort of using laptop carts and distributing to appropriate kivas, and is not double dipping here in the sense that if this kiva already has a donation, then an additional cart is going to another kiva for equal distribution.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, thank you.
Another interesting component of this, too, is that it's allowed us to use Infinite Campus sort of through a capacity that we didn't think we were capable of using before in the past. So to be able to do these threads is really remarkable when you look at the level of the conversation that kids are having amongst one another, and to be able to expand that beyond their classroom. So they're not really bound by just that physical space anymore. They can have that conversation on a variety of topics throughout our building and then hopefully over time throughout our district. So I think that's really the power behind it.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Thanks
Okay.
for your questions, Sophie.
Yeah.
Well, just because we've had.
No, that's really good.
No.
We have.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to accept the donation to Eastline Middle School from Dr., is it Dr.?
Doctor, yeah.
Dr. Barry Sheckley in the amount of $5,000.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Barbara seconds it. Lee, you were close.
I'll get it next time.
You get it next time, okay. Any other discussion, comment on this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, one abstention.
One abstention?
Yeah,
Yep.
Jamie did. Okay, all right. That brings us into Policy, second readings, we've got 4 of them.
All right.
Jamie, you want to?
Yep. I'm going to ask, has anything come in on Board of Ed Policy 5118?
No.
All right, so I recommend approval of the, oh my gosh, I recommend the revision of, I'm sorry, I'm fighting a migraine. I recommend the revision of policy 5118-1, students, homeless students.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
There you go, all right. Any discussion on this one? Okay. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes unanimously. Jamie, you want me to read them off?
Nope, I got it.
Okay,
It's good.
all right.
All right, Amy or Jeff, has anything come in on 5123, student promotion retention?
No.
No. All right, I'd like to make a motion to revise Board of Ed Policy 5123, students promotion retention.
Okay, and second? And Barbara seconds it. Discussion? Any other comments? Nope. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Has anything come in on Board of Ed Policy 51415?
No, nothing.
We spent most of our time talking about the
Yeah.
regulations.
I would like to recommend the revision of Board of Ed Policy 51415, student suicide prevention and intervention.
Okay, and the second?
Second.
Bill seconds it. Okay, any other discussion on that one? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
All right.
Abstained? Passes unanimously.
Has anything come in on 6153?
No.
All right, I make a motion to approve the revisions of Board of Ed Policy 6153, instruction field trips.
I'll second.
Al seconds it. Discussion on that one? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Jamie, for the hard work on all of those from your policy committee. Okay, next items are under other. Jeff and I thought it might be a good idea for us just to take a peek and have any comments or discussions on how we, as a board, are doing against the Board of Ed adopted goals. Back of the sheet is actually those goals that we've adopted. So, Jeff, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I just think it's been great that we've kind of carved these out with, some AAA committee work, some FFO committee work, and then, FFO building and ad hoc committee work. I think it's provided some focus and direction around continuing to bring our goals to the forefront through those committees and committee work. So, kudos for sticking with that. I think it's been good.
Yeah, there is a lot. There's, when we really get into it, there's quite a bit of effort that's we've had on a lot of these items. So, any comments, Jamie?
The first bullet, develop a framework for teaching and learning, student-teacher focus on technology in the classroom and digital citizenship. I'd kind of like to know how we're doing as a district on it. I don't know about any other freshman families in the district, but I know my family had a really tough time making the switch from middle school not doing it to high school doing it, the digital Google Classroom work. We're having a really tough transition in my house. I don't know about anybody else's house, but having not used it at the middle school, coming up to the high school, and it's everything, we're having issue. I don't know about any other parent-student-teacher relationship, but I know it's an issue in my family.
Isn't there some sort of integration at the 8th grade level going into ninth? You would think that there would be?
They're beginning to look at Google Classroom. Some are using it, actually a handful at the school level. So just, it wasn't passed other than just it's working its way.
Good. Okay. Barbara?
I'd be interested in hearing where we are on our district-wide data acquisition plan.
Okay.
Let me preface, too, that when we report out on the improvement plans in March, I think some of these
Right.
forth. So,
Yeah.
so this is good.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll try and
I really,
key
when
in
I
on some
saw this, I
things.
said, and I read through it, I said, quite honestly, it's kind of hard for me to say how we're doing because we haven't really discussed this part since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So we don't really kind of know. I mean, I know we're all working on it, and I know that some of these things have been discussed at AAA, but in terms
I was
of
gonna say-
the board, like, I can look at the FFO stuff and say, yep, we're doing all
Yeah,
this.
that's what,
But I can't look at AAA and if somebody said to me, how are we doing? I wouldn't know, I don't know.
Yeah. there was a great set of minutes that you'd put out from one
Oh, yeah,
of the
they're out.
AAA meetings where that was discussed
you looked
at
at
pretty
them?
good length.
The meeting minutes?
Yeah, I don't remember any.
That was in, was that?
What the new data acquisition
Yeah, because there's
plan
only
was.
been one
opportunity for
Right. to come forward, and she had made up a packet that I had put out.
Right.
So that's applicable that you could look at. If there's more that's needed, I imagine that we could have Amy actually present to the entire board if that's more that you need. That's fine with me.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Absolutely, I'm
Yep.
sure that Amy would love to do that.
Yeah, I feel pretty good. Yeah, that was I'm sitting here, I'm trying to rack my brain cells remembering because I know that there was a presentation that you made at AAA, which actually knocked our socks.
Yeah.
Right.
When I present this, when we do the district improvement plan,
We can
You'll
tie
see
that,
that.
yeah, we can tie that in.
I guess there's a difference between reading it in minutes
And hearing
and
it.
and actually hearing about it, which I think, which has always been my comment that things that are really important, like our board goals, ought to be discussed in front of all of us rather than just at a committee, because also these are public, not that the other meetings aren't public, but they're also
Right.
not televised.
Yep.
And so the most important work we do as a board is done behind the scenes. And I guess we've all said over time that our goal is to spend our time at meetings discussing these things.
I think Barb's making up a really great point, and instead of having him at the committee level, maybe we should just have them here. I think that maybe would cure the issue.
I mean, we don't have to do it every meeting, because obviously we have other stuff we have to talk about. But I think we need to be talking about it more. I mean, just like at FFO, we talk about the state of the budget every month. I kind of think that's something that ought to be discussed at the board level once a month in front of the whole board. And then the state of curriculum and instruction ought to be discussed in front of the whole board. I mean, clearly, we can't give as much of a report at a board meeting because we can't have an hour on AAA and an hour on FFO, but
And you also don't want to reiterate the information. If you just have.
Well, that's just it, yeah, I want to be,
An hour earlier, you don't want to
Like an
spend another 45 minutes on the exact
But
information
maybe
that was
on
gone over.
the nights of the AAA meetings, we do an FFO report from the previous meeting. And I'm just saying, then the whole board hears it. I mean, let's be totally honest, our board packets are like, reading every single word of the board packet before a meeting, literally, if you do it the way you're supposed to do it, takes 3 or 4 hours, right? So I guess, and let's face it, we don't all spend 3 or 4 hours reading the minutes. And so I think it has to be, we have to spend more time at meetings talking about the business of the school district.
Yeah.
I think we're doing a much better job than we were, but I still don't feel like we're talking about it enough.
Yeah. I remember when we had that discussion at AAA that we came and Candace gave a very nice summary.
Well, it was
of-
summary. It's
of
not
it, yeah.
Amy.
And then
I can't be Amy, but.
to the minutes,
Right,
which
I
then
can't be Amy,
were
but I
issued, yeah.
did
So, but anyway, but that's,
Specifically put that
I hear your
packet in
point.
with the meeting minutes actually for you, because I know that you want more, you know,
Okay.
and other than actually going to
forget.
that meeting, so maybe it should be relooked at how it's
I mean,
delivered.
just
Okay.
if you could get a quick review or something, or like, here's what we have for the data acquisition plan. This is it. I want to see it. What is
Okay,
it?
got it. Yep, okay. All right. Al, did you have a comment?
Yeah, the last one, which is a district capital improvement plan.
Yep.
Barbara mentioned today at the interest the town has in a maintenance plan, and we talked about this before. But basically, so we get a handle on what maintenance issues the district will have in the future, so we can plan accordingly, instead of getting to the point like we have been for the past how many years, saying, oh my God, we got to replace a filter, we have to replace a hot water heater, we replace an oil barrel. We just don't do that now. Now it's a crisis management of the town. And the Board of Finance is very interested in us having a maintenance plan. So does that kind of go along with the capital improvement plan? I think some of the stuff on there are maintenance items.
Yeah, there's an interface between.
So really,
Yeah.
it's like a blend.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we should add a word to this, say capital/maintenance improvement plan, because basically, right now, the capital has some maintenance items on it. Like
Yeah.
things we know we fix. That's what they're talking.
I think there's a dollar value that goes with it. So our management plan would be, our maintenance plan, we would pay for out of our budget.
No, but I'm talking about, we want to have one, because it'd be nice to know that, okay, 2 years from now, we have to replace our air.
Right, and we've been working on it.
Yeah, I'm saying like, it should really be a part of this, not just all by itself.
Oh, got it.
Because some of the capital improvement items are maintenance items already.
I'll just say one.
As
One of the people that
actually are
participate in every one of these. Maybe Jeff and I actually want to commend the board for the
work that they're doing.
I do.
Barbara said that
And said, we're doing pretty good job. I think we are. I think we're doing a pretty darn good job. There's always, things can be done better, faster, quicker, all of those things. But overall, with the help from Jeff and administrative team and so forth, we are pushing some mighty big boulders here. along. So I really think that those have done a very good job.
Oh, it's so much better than it was 5 or 6 years ago. It's amazing.
Good, okay. Okay. Moving on to the last item, board management service proposal, which we have an opportunity to chat. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, you can do that, Go right ahead, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
Didn't we discuss this already?
We did the, yeah.
All right.
We couldn't vote.
Motion, though, and then I'll open it up for.
Make a motion, no more soggy papers for Candace.
Go ahead. I'd like to make a motion.
So is it written, what do we? Am I yelling?
Right here, Bill. Got it right here, Derek.
Or any.
Okay, I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into one-year agreement with the Board Docs to provide the Board Docs Pro document management system as presented.
Seconds it now. Discussion.
I think it's great.
We had a.
Just a quick overview, moving from this paper that you see on the table to a online system where your devices will be in front of our board members and being able to view information. Saying that it all disappeared, Jamie, all together, but
All the information.
I'm the only holdout.
where you have it online.
But we'll still get the PDF.
I think I'm the paper holdout.
Yeah, we're not,
We're not getting emails anymore with the PDF.
It's going to be your own printer.
No, what I'm saying.
spend an
is
exorbitant amount of time putting it all together, delivering it.
Okay, that's what I want, because I can sometimes have a chance.
This is the file.
You'll be able to
sit there with your iPhone
when you're in downtime,
Reading board.
you can read the board pack.
No, I just like to do it at work every once in a while.
That's my idea of a great time, sitting there with my board packet.
Your nails.
We can add notes now?
10,000, and you're also doing this in conjunction with water.
Yes, so we got to We did a little regional piece with Waterford, so we both saved $1,000.
So no more notebooks that I worry about that I have to bring back to her. I always want to recycle.
Your basement should be empty. Moving forward, you keep it all in line.
Fortune on paper.
That's right.
Everything will be in a repository and saved, so we can always go back to, just do a search, find any meeting.
That's exciting. Are you excited?
Any insight?
She's bubbling over.
Doesn't want to show it on camera.
All right, yeah, I'll let you know.
She's fielding calls.
Yeah.
Be like,
yeah.
I think it's great.
We will provide you training, too. There'll be training, I won't, but they'll come.
No, we'll
So you're going to give us a device during the board meeting. I think I missed this.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained. Okay, unanimous. All right, administration reports.
Really just one item I want to reference, safety and security, with all that, and thank you, Tim, for the moment of silence for the board meeting. It was very appropriate with all that's, continuing to go on. There's a lot of chatter out on social media. I sent out a letter today to parents just referencing, not discussing, what our safety measures are, but asking them really to help us. We need to work together to make sure that, if community members, if parents, if students are hearing things out there that reference violence or, they're concerned about a student and his or her mental health, we need to hear it, and there's avenues to do that, and I shared two of them. We have a tip line right on our website that can be filled out, an anonymous tip line.
I like that.
Yep, and also within that site, we just received, the police department just formulated a new tip line themselves, a tip app.
It's an app.
It's an app, yep. So we have direct information on how to put that onto your phone, so if there is something serious in your community or neighborhood even, you can use that as well. So we're really just trying to continue to join forces and make sure that our schools, remain as safe as possible. So
George has a question.
that's it.
Sorry.
George has a
Oh, George, yeah, okay.
Will this be part of your student handbook going forward?
Yeah, that's a good question, George. I haven't thought about that.
It's on our page.
Yeah, it's on our website. We could probably put it into the student handbooks as, anonymous.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good idea.
Yep.
That's a very good idea.
Those handbooks.
Yes.
Item number 12.
Thank you, George.
Anything else?
No problem.
No, that's,
I'm on it.
Anything else, Jeff?
that's all I have.
Amy, anything to add?
Just two, just sort of FYI items that I wanted you to know about, because we have some grade 3 and 4 teachers that are out doing site visits with me. So I know at the next meeting, I believe, I'm presenting an update on the elementary schedule. I believe at the next meeting. But in lieu of that, one of the things that we've been talking to our grade 3 and 4 teachers across the 3 elementary schools is possibly departmentalizing at grade 3 and 4 level. Meaning that we would have teachers potentially be math science combination as well as ELA social studies combination or whatever. We haven't even determined what that is. But we went ahead, we had a meeting with all the 3rd and 4th grade teachers and sort of got their thoughts about it and just did like a listening session with them. And one of the things that they asked for is, I want to go see it. So we have visited Stonington, we visited Salem today, and we are actually going to visit Norwich on Wednesday, which is actually pretty interesting because Norwich in particular has 3 elementary schools that they need to track the data on the model, and it has proven almost a 30% increase on student achievement for them. So I'm really interested to see how they're designing their model. So we're conducting those site visits, and then we'll come back together. We have another meeting with the 3rd and 4th grade teachers as well on the books to have that conversation. But I just want to let you know, because I'm on the road with teachers, and one of the elementary principals accompanies me to each visit. So we sort of divided and conquered. You all. Yes,
I love the idea, but I'm trying to conceptualize it. So would it be the 3rd and 4th grade teachers would share, like one teacher would do math and science and one would do ELA and social studies, and they would like swap to get them ready for middle school. I like it.
Which is a great transition.
So that addresses some of our transition from the elementary to middle school model, but I think it also speaks and allows, potentially allows our teachers to delve deeper into content areas, especially with the
That
demands
they're
of the
better
seniors.
at than something else. I like it.
And like I said, the teachers are right along the way with us at the observations, having the conversations, and so I just want to let you know it's out there as a major discussion item. Our hope is to be able to bring some level of recommendation, because we are bringing together an elementary ad hoc schedule committee that will go ahead and look at our schedule, look at recommendations from that group, and they will be teachers and administrators who will determine the changes in our schedule for next year. So I wanted to give you that update at the elementary level. The other thing I wanted to just give you is an update, just because we've been talking a lot about the social and emotional needs of our students. I wanted to give you an update. Kim Davis and I chair the Social and Emotional Committee. We are happy to say that we have chosen an assessment, the DESA assessment, which we will be using to pilot across the district. Part of that is, again, how are we assessing our social emotional needs of our students? And part of our district improvement plan was to pilot an assessment that could go across our district and give us a read on where our students are social emotionally. The other thing that we are doing as well is working with CRAC, because it is their second year, as well adding in some additional questions that we'd like data points on for our students. And so we will also get that assessment data this year. So it's really nice. We went from not feeling as though we had a cross-district assessment measure to potentially having two that have been identified. We've also adopted Castle's social emotional competencies as a district, so we have common language as to how we identify social emotional. I will present that data to you of the findings of our pilot once it's completed. It'll be a 6-week pilot, so you know. So I will present that. So that is part of Kim and my's joint work in regards to student services and curriculum instruction around social emotional goals. So I thought you'd want to know that, since it seems to be coming up a lot. So that's terrific. That's it.
Good, very good. Mariana, anything to add on that? No? We lost her office, yeah. She's consoling her.
Jeff's out, I'm out, she's out.
Andre,
Let's just put it.
finance director.
I know, really.
Okay.
Jeff, George.
Question, Amy, I know.
Yeah.
I think 2 years ago, when you first came aboard, you offered to come to Salem and make presentations. And
You're going to be presenting all over the place.
you may not remember. It was,
He does.
my memory's still pretty good. I think that Salem would be very interested in how your tech plan, your initiatives at elementary and middle are progressing, as well as your social emotional evaluations are done in terms of the Board of Education. I know you've been working with our administration, okay, but I think that the more we can do in coordination, the better off for the town.
Okay. Number 13. I got it. I'm on it.
Okay. That concludes the administration reports. Committee reports, there was an FFO meeting this evening and started at 7. Eric, Barbara?
Two main topics we went through how we're doing this year from a budget perspective and actuals. Mariana put together a nice schedule. We've had savings, but those savings were then offset with additional costs. So we're tracking on, and on meaning on to cover the $550,000 that we have to give back to ECS. And that also means we've frozen a lot of discretionary items. There's also an additional cost that's going to be coming down the pike that we're going to have to manage as well. So it continues to be a tight run going into this year to manage to our number. But we're on track, but it's not easy to be on track. The other item we did talk a little bit more about was, we talked about our facilities plan and getting someone to come in and take a look at the high school and middle school to see what kind of maintenance we need to do and going forward. We did get a bid from someone one person, I can't remember, they were referred by OMG. It was just ridiculously expensive. So we started to discuss, we can't do that, so what are our next steps? And we're trying to see, are there maybe some people in town? Can the town people maybe do something? Are there actual residents in town who could maybe help and try to do something a little cheaper? And we're looking at other options as well. So we're still trying to sort out what the best path is for that.
Good.
That's for like our 10-year maintenance plan to see what do we need to do at the middle school and the high school.
I feel like I need more detail, though. I need you to go into much more detail. I mean, really, I really need more detail from you. How the meeting went, where the discrepancies were, where you got the money. You're not being sarcastic. I absolutely am. I absolutely am. In a very funny way. No worries. Oh, Barbara, come on.
All right. Okay. Oh, my God. That's that. When are we presenting to the Board of Finance?
The
19.
14th?
Oh, that's my meeting date.
No, it's a Monday. It's a
The 19th.
It's a Monday when we're supposed to be presenting, but it's not a board of ed night.
What night is
I'll
it?
tell you exactly.
I just want
I can tell you too.
Slated for March,
19th.
yeah, March 19th.
March 19th.
Yes.
So it's a separate.
It's a special.
Oh, because I'm still going to be on the hot seat.
Yeah.
That's the Board of Finance?
I'm free, Gene, then.
I think I will come and also give you
I'll bring my budget
support.
book and just hand it to them.
There.
Yeah.
Great plan.
I'm going to be there too, the 14th. Is when Jamie's, the next.
Oh.
For the board.
Yeah.
Oh,
But that doesn't mean they're not going to be like,
yeah, they aren't.
oh, they will.
Okay. Okay. All right.
That's, I'm prepared.
All right. Good. Okay. So communications, notices, public, board comment, and future
I always have my
agenda topics. Amy's got her hand up. Okay.
I have my hand up. Trivia night for the Miracle League is not just this Friday night. It is also next Saturday night. It's an adults-only night. It's $20 a head. It's at the Niantic Sportsman's Club. Tickets are on sale at Park and Rec and at Town Hall. Form your teams, 2, 4, we don't care. Just come out and have fun. It's for a good cause. Adults only, though. No children.
Right. Other comments? Bill?
Yeah, I got an email from Lyme's Youth Service Bureau, and they're having a community forum on youth substance abuse. Now, Lyme Youth Service Bureau every year does a survey in our school with the students on drug and alcohol use and all that. And one of the things that came up, and I can't imagine things are much different here, but the number of students vaping is
out of control.
ridiculous. It's like more than 60%.
We're hearing this.
Really high. And I just don't know what we have going on, at our school and what we're doing to try to, and it's become like a full-time job, and it's not, it's hard. It was laughable because we had put signs up in the restroom, 1 person to a stall. Like, you have to put a sign now that says you can't have 3 boys in 1 stall anymore because they're all going into, the handicap stall and vaping. So if you walk into a bathroom as a teacher and you see 3 kids in 1 stall, it's pretty obvious that they're, not in there for other reasons. So I gotta imagine some, maybe it doesn't happen here in East Lyme, but
it does.
It's everywhere.
Just happened to see that email and was curious as to what we're doing, because it's, there's some serious health implications too. And I know that it's actually, and maybe even more popular with young women too, the whole nicotine thing and the appetite suppression and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Do a little research, Bill, maybe I can put together something to put it in the weekly update.
Yeah.
Start, or we can have more discussions.
Okay.
And Bill, we do that study too.
CREC survey.
Yeah.
We do that
Some-
CREC
some-
study too.
That's right,
Yeah.
some data there.
We're up for it this year again.
Yeah. Other comments?
Well, yeah, our visitor, Carrie, brought up some questions about the food service, and
Yeah.
I have to say, I was a little bit, I was under the impression that we were utilizing a lot of our fresh farms and fresh fruit, so
We are.
if we could clarify that, because certainly, we don't want to be providing
Yeah.
sugar and all of those things.
On Cocoa Puffs in
The
particular.
whole movement actually was supposed to be better, right? And actually a little bit modeled off of Brigade. I know that, in the future, that was something possibly, I have to
it's-
say I would check on it, yeah.
Yeah, you want
I can, I've met with Carrie,
Okay.
and so has obviously Mr. Urban, shared a lot of information. So I'm happy to
Great.
pull some things together too, and
to, okay,
let you know.
good. I have one comment, and that is just, I know it's very difficult for board members to carve out additional time and so forth. Certainly, Candace, Eric, Al, Jamie, thank you for coming to the Board of Selectmen meeting. Support budget presentation.
And Eric.
Eric was there,
and Eric was there, yeah.
Yeah, we get extra credit for that.
Yeah, you get extra credit. Yeah, you get double your salary there. And Jeff did,
Yeah, I was
I
doing
thought
two
Jeff did a
days.
great job with the presentation. And as Mr. Daigle said, the Board of Selectmen were very supportive of the efforts on the budget and the approach and how the budget is put together. And also the proposal on trying to get some more help in to deal with social and emotional aspects of our children. Which first selectman said, that's the town has not really been structured to take care of. And it's really important to have it take another step forward at the school level. So thank you. That was very good. Okay, any other comment? Okay, public comment? Anybody from public want to address the board on any matter? No? No? Okay, we do have a need for an executive session for the purpose of personnel issues as well. And I talk about this a little bit.
Yes, and I want to, we'll invite,
we'll do that.
and Amy. I just need to meet with you first before Mr. Olson
Okay.
on one other item.
Yeah, so we'll take a brief recess and go into executive session, executive session, executive session, executive session.